What the hell is AMPK? Well, it's something that'll keep you brimming with energy, it'll boost your immune system, it'll help you lose weight by burning fat, but most importantly, it'll keep you young by cranking up your mitochondria, supporting autophagy, and putting chronic inflammation on the back burner, if you activate it. And in today's video, I'll show you how to do just that. Look, we all want to stay young as long as we can, right? We want to slow down the aging process and even turn it back if possible. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a really great strategy to add to your arsenal of techniques to live a radically longer and healthier life. And that's activation of the AMPK pathway. Today, we'll be tackling the subject of AMPK activation. We'll take a look at what the AMPK pathway is, how it gets activated, the effects of AMPK activation, as well as the impact that a decline in AMPK activation has on aging. We'll also discuss various things that you can do to boost your AMPK activation. Now, before we begin, we need to understand what ATP is and what it does. ATP is the primary energy source of all living organisms on Earth, whether it's metabolized from a light source, as in the case of plants, or whether it's metabolized from the food we eat. Chemical energy is captured and stored in the form of ATP. Then in the mitochondria, the energy stored in the ATP is released to fuel every cellular and biological function in our bodies, from breathing to digesting food to running a marathon. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Now, it's a molecule that has 3 phosphate groups attached to it, and thus the tri and triphosphate. It's the breaking of the bonds that holds these phosphate groups in place that generates the energy that's released. Once the energy is released, the adenosine triphosphate is converted into adenosine monophosphate, meaning that the molecule now has only a single phosphate group attached, and it's now called AMP. So basically, AMP activation occurs after a lot of ATP has been converted to AMP, usually through some type of strenuous activity. AMPK is an enzyme, and it stands for adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. Kinases are simply enzymes that transfer a phosphate group from a high energy molecule to a specific substrate. AMPK is biochemically activated in the presence of increasing levels of AMP and decreasing levels of ATP. And when AMPK is activated, cells don't make or store fat, but rather they burn fat for energy, and it promotes glucose transport. Activated AMPK promotes the rapid, efficient release of energy with little energy stored as fat, resulting in low blood sugar and fat levels, increased insulin sensitivity, and a low risk of heart disease, diabetes, and other metabolic disorders. Activated AMPK also promotes the steady renewal of cellular components. It promotes autophagy, which is a process where cells consume themselves and recycle their components. This process eliminates damaged DNA and misshapen proteins, another cause of aging. It induces mitochondrial biogenesis, which is the creation of new mitochondria. It also stimulates the production of SIRT1, one of the sirtuins, and an enzyme that repairs DNA and is increased in animals with extended lifespans. AMPK activation is critical to the immune system, enhancing the ability of white blood cells to home in on and destroy invading bacteria. Finally, activated AMPK inhibits signaling of the nuclear factor kappa B pathway, which is a pro-inflammatory pathway. So inhibiting this pathway results in reduced chronic inflammation. Because of its importance in maintaining and restoring youthful function, AMPK has been called a gerosuppressor. Gero as in gerontology, the study of old age, and it's called this because it suppresses the processes of biological aging. But like most everything else, AMPK activity declines sharply with age. AMPK activation can be suppressed by inflammation, and when calorie intake is higher than needed to sustain energy expenditures, when more calories are consumed than burned, AMPK activation can be markedly decreased. And with reduced AMPK activation, cells decrease their energy releasing ATP generating activities and shift to energy storing activities, generating new fat deposits and creating new glucose molecules. Boosting AMPK activity will keep your tissues young and slow aging throughout your body. It will also help suppress a number of chronic diseases associated with old age, including cancer, cardiovascular disease and arteriosclerosis, metabolic syndrome and diabetes, and liver disease. So, in the quest to turn back the clock, activating AMPK would be a good thing, right? But how do you do that? Well, calorie restriction is one way, but to be honest, it would require a more severe restriction than most of us would be comfortable with or could sustain for very long. Probably the best way to activate AMPK is through exercise. AMPK activation is stimulated by muscle contraction. Studies have shown that not only does exercise positively affect AMPK activation, but the higher the intensity, the more AMPK is activated. And as it turns out, high-intensity interval training is extremely effective at activating AMPK. There are also several nutrients that have been shown to activate AMPK. Alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA, can activate AMPK in tissues, particularly muscle tissue. Quercetin can increase AMPK in fat, muscle, and the liver. Fish oil, curcumin, and EGCG, or epigallocatechin gallate, from green tea can also activate AMPK. And the thing to keep in mind is this. Research has demonstrated that the pathways that cause cellular aging likely each affect aging separately, because targeting each of them simultaneously leads to additive increases in lifespans, meaning that the more therapies or interventions that you use, the more increases in your lifespan that you'll experience. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to learn more about other nutrient sensing pathways, then check out this playlist. That's it for me. I'm out of here.